Diane set the lemon pie on the table and said, "It needs 10 minutes," as if my suitcase weren't standing beside the front door. I looked at it, then at Evan. He folded his napkin into a narrow rectangle. "You have 48 hours to vacate the guest suite." "Vacate? My guest suite," he said. "Sunday night to Tuesday night, that's 48 hours. Diane sat down before I did. She had packed my blue suitcase so carefully that the zipper wasn't straining. My tan coat lay folded over the handle. I thought it would be less upsetting if we helped," she said. I stared at Evan. "You let your mother pack my underwear?" "This is exactly why we wanted to tell you calmly. Calmly, over pie." His mouth tightened. "It's my property, Claire. I paid every renovation bill on that property." My phone chimed beside my plate. The booking app's blue house icon appeared above a line of text. "A new property from a host you follow is now live." Below it was a photograph of my bed. For a second, the room seemed to tilt without anything moving. I touched the alert and a listing opened under the title, "The Glass House Guest Suite, a Private Garden Retreat." The lead photo showed the bedroom in late afternoon light, the linen duvet smoothed flat, my rust-colored robe missing from its hook. Evan. He looked at the phone and went still. Diane reached for the pie knife. "We should have coffee." "When did you take pictures of my bedroom?" "It isn't your bedroom," Evan said. That answer hurt more than the suitcase. I scrolled. There was the bathroom I had gutted down to the studs. There was the walnut shelf I'd commissioned from Luis, holding my folded towels, my ceramic soap dish, my silver earrings in a little blue bowl. In the kitchenette, someone had turned all the mug handles to the right because that was how I staged photographs. Available starting Wednesday, 2-night minimum, instant booking. The suite accommodates 2 guests and includes locally sourced breakfast baskets, professional housekeeping, access to the restored glass sunroom, and responsive support throughout your stay. I read that last sentence twice. Who's providing responsive support? Evan reached for his wine. His fingers missed the stem the first time. We were going to discuss operations separately. We? Your name isn't on it, Diane said. If that's what's bothering you. The host photograph showed Evan and Diane standing under the dogwood tree, shoulders touching, both in pale blue shirts. Diane's profile read, "Hospitality is in our family. We love sharing our lovingly restored home with thoughtful travelers." I turned my phone toward them. "You listed the suite before you told me to leave." "It had to be timed," Evan said. "To what?" He nodded toward the screen. "The festival calendar. We missed the spring weekends because the shower glass took forever. The shower glass took forever because you changed the measurements after it was ordered. Diane sliced into the pie too soon. The filling spread into the gap. She made a small, irritated sound as if the pie had chosen a side." Evan pushed his chair back. "I'm not doing an audit of every decision we've made. This situation hasn't been working." "What situation?" "You treating the whole house like your project. It is my project. I've been managing the renovation for 14 months. That doesn't make it your house. There it was again, neat and polished. His property. His house. My invoices." Diane slid a collapsed piece of pie onto a plate. "Claire, money can confuse people. It can make generosity feel like ownership after the fact." I laughed once. I couldn't help it. She looked offended. "I'm trying to be kind." "You packed my suitcase while I was eating the chicken you asked me to bring." "I didn't pack everything. Just enough for a few nights." "Where exactly am I spending those nights?" Evan leaned forward, lowering his voice in the way he did when he wanted to make my volume the problem. "You have the studio. My studio has a desk, fabric samples, and 1 bathroom with a utility sink. You have friends. I had a home when I got here." Diane put the pie server down. "Evan thinks some space before the wedding would be healthy." The wedding was 7 weeks away. The invitation proofs were waiting at my studio because Evan had forgotten twice to approve the final wording. His suit was hanging in the guest suite closet beside my dresses. We had tasted 4 kinds of buttercream on Thursday. I looked at him. Is the wedding still happening? He exhaled through his nose. Why do you always jump to the most dramatic version? Because your mother packed me a getaway bag. I packed practical things, Diane said. The green sweater, 2 pairs of slacks, your toiletries. Your black pumps are in the side compartment so the heels won't catch. You went through my shoes? She was helping, Evan said. A strange memory surfaced. Diane kneeling beside me 3 months earlier, holding the guest suite curtains away from the floor while I pinned the hems. She had produced a thimble from her purse and told me the linen needed to kiss the floor, not marry it. We had laughed. Afterward, she'd stayed for Chinese food and eaten noodles out of the carton because the kitchen counters were still covered with tools. Now she cut herself a second piece of pie. I picked up my phone again. The listing had 12 photographs. Some had been taken while I was in Charleston the previous Tuesday installing a hotel lobby. I knew because the green glass key tag lay on the kitchen counter in one picture. I'd left it there when Evan said he needed my key so the electrician could inspect the new panel. The key tag was a cloudy piece of bottle glass wrapped in copper wire. I had made it during our first weekend in the house when rain came through the sunroom roof and we put saucepans under the leaks. Evan had handed me a spare key and said, "Now you can stop knocking." In the photograph, that key had been arranged beside a bowl of lemons. "How did the photographer get in?" I asked. I let him in. "You told me Pete needed my key for the panel." "The panel was part of it." "So you lied. I didn't give you an itemized itinerary." Diane pressed her napkin to the corner of her mouth. "This tone is why a pause is necessary." I stood. The table bumped my thigh, making the silverware jump. "Did you know he lied to me?" "Sit down," Evan said. "Did you know?" Diane glanced at him. It lasted no more than a second, but it was enough. She knew. I walked to the doorway and gripped the suitcase handle. It was heavier than I expected. Diane had packed my laptop charger. She had packed the prescription cream I kept behind the bathroom mirror. She had packed the green sweater I wore when I wanted to look harmless in meetings. This hadn't happened while she waited for the chicken to brown. She had made decisions in my bedroom while I was at work, and Evan had brought her inside. "Where are the rest of my things?" I asked. "In the suite," he said. "No one's preventing access. Except the guests arriving Wednesday. You have 2 days." I pulled the suitcase upright. One wheel caught on the edge of the dining room rug. Evan watched me struggle with it, then pushed back his chair. "I'll carry that." "Don't, Claire." I said don't. He stopped, hands open at his sides. He looked tired rather than cruel, which made everything worse. The pale groove from his watch band showed at his wrist. I had bought him that watch when he closed on his first large architecture contract. He wore it to every important meeting and took it off for dinner because Diane said watches at the table made guests feel rushed. "I'm not throwing you away," he said. "I'm asking for space in a property I'm legally responsible for. You're renting my home to strangers. It was always supposed to produce income eventually, after we moved into the main house together. The main house isn't ready, because you stopped paying the contractors." His eyes sharpened. "That's not dinner conversation." "What is dinner conversation? Eviction." Diane rose and began stacking plates. The loan payment increased, insurance increased, taxes increased. Evan is trying to be responsible. With my bedroom. With an asset he owns. I looked around the dining room. The wall behind her still had 3 rectangles of paint where I'd tested colors. Evan liked the gray. Diane liked cream. We had chosen cream because Evan told me it wasn't worth making his mother feel unwelcome over a wall. I had mistaken that sentence for kindness. My phone chimed again. "Your saved host has received their first reservation." Evan moved before he could disguise it, looking down at the screen. Diane stopped stacking plates. I opened the notification. Someone named Martin had reserved 4 nights beginning Wednesday. The total was $1,684. "Congratulations," I said. Evan's relief flickered and disappeared. That proves there's demand. For professional housekeeping you don't employ and breakfast baskets you don't know how to order. We can arrange those. And 24-hour support? My mother lives 10 minutes away. Diane lifted her chin. I have managed more complicated things than a guest room. You called me last month because your streaming service asked you to choose a profile. That television is intentionally confusing. Despite myself, I almost smiled. Diane saw it and softened. Claire, she said, take 2 nights. Sleep. Let everyone settle down. We can have lunch Tuesday and talk like reasonable women. While Evan does what? He'll be working. Hosting. This isn't about replacing you, Evan said. The listing glowed in my hand. The host photograph was cropped tightly enough to remove the broken sunroom window behind them. What is it about? He rubbed his forehead. You've made every room dependent on you. Every vendor calls you. Every receipt goes to you. You choose the finishes, the schedule, what gets ordered. I feel like a tenant in my own house. You asked me to run the renovation. I asked for help. You asked me to front the money, and we agreed it was an investment in our future. Then why is the future listed at $400 a night with your mother? Diane picked up the pie and carried it toward the kitchen. I won't be made into the villain because I'm helping my son protect himself. From his fiancé? From confusion. She said the word as if confusion were an animal I had brought inside. Evan came around the table. Take the suitcase to Jenna's tonight. Tomorrow, when we're not all activated, we'll make a plan for the rest. Activated? It's a real word. It's a word our couples counselor used one time, and you've been saving it like a coupon. His jaw clenched. There was the Evan I recognized. Embarrassed, funny despite himself, wanting the fight to end without losing it. He touched my elbow. I stepped back. I love you, he said quietly, but I need you to understand that loving me doesn't give you ownership of everything attached to me. I waited for the rest of the sentence, some recognition that he had let Diane open my drawers, some acknowledgement that he had photographed the bed we shared and sold Wednesday night to Martin. Nothing came. I pulled the suitcase through the doorway. The wheel bumped over the threshold, leaving a pale line in the rug nap. The guest suite stood beyond the kitchen courtyard, connected to the house by a glass-roofed breezeway that leaked at both ends. Evening light caught in the old panes. For months, I had crossed that breezeway carrying tile samples, paint cans, invoices, groceries, clean laundry, takeout, and once a toilet seat because Evan refused to hold it in the hardware store parking lot. My key still worked. Inside, everything looked almost normal. That was the ugly part. My shoes remained lined under the bench. 2 coffee cups sat in the sink. Evan's navy suit hung in the closet with the dry cleaner's paper over the shoulders. On the dresser, my engagement ring dish held 3 bobby pins and a dime. The green glass key tag was gone from the counter. I found it hanging from a small hook beside the door, staged beneath a framed card that read, "Welcome home." Evan had printed the card on paper from my studio. I set the suitcase on the bed and opened it. Diane really had packed with care. Tissue separated my shoes. My face wash was sealed in a sandwich bag. She had included the earrings Evan gave me for our first anniversary and not the silver pair I wore every day. It was possible to know someone well and still help remove her. I took out my laptop. The booking app recognized my face and opened the host dashboard automatically. I expected to find the old draft listing I had built months ago, back when Evan and I were still deciding whether short-term rentals were worth the trouble. Instead, the dashboard showed an active property, 1 confirmed reservation, and a payout account ending in numbers I didn't recognize. At the top of the page, beneath Evan's new listing, was my company name, Bennett House, Styling LLC. Below it were my insurance certificate, my tax profile, my cleaning agreement, and the professional host verification I had earned through 3 years of staging and managing other people's rentals. Evan had changed where the money went. He had left where the responsibility landed. I heard his footsteps in the breezeway. He tried the handle without knocking. For the first time since he gave me the green-tagged key, I turned the lock. Claire. Evan pressed the handle again. Open the door. I took screenshots of the dashboard. Give me a minute. You just locked me out of my own building. It's been 30 seconds. You'll survive. I photographed the payout information, the insurance certificate, and the page showing Bennett House Styling as the verified operator. Then I forwarded the screenshots to my business email. My hands shook so badly that I mistyped my own address twice. Evan knocked with the flat of his hand. We agreed not to escalate. I opened the door. He had brought my coat from the suitcase and draped it over his arm. You forgot this. Your mother packed it. Can we not do that? Do what? Turn every sentence into a weapon. I stepped aside, and he entered without waiting for an invitation. He looked around the suite as if checking for damage. Everything was precisely where he'd last seen it, including the 2 cups in the sink, but his shoulders lowered anyway. What account did you use for the listing? I asked. The one you made. You used my company verification. Temporarily, it was already set up. My insurance is attached. I'm going to replace it. When? Tomorrow. Before or after Martin arrives? Wednesday. He arrives Wednesday. That's not an answer. Evan laid my coat on the bench. I needed the listing live before the festival traffic peaked. If I'd started from scratch, verification could have taken a week. So you used my business to skip it. I used the infrastructure we built together. We built this together, too. I pointed at the floor. Apparently, that doesn't count when you're discussing ownership. You're comparing the house to an online profile. I'm comparing your definition of ours to your definition of mine. He looked away first. His attention landed on my open laptop. You were in the payout settings? I was in my company account. The payouts go to me. Yes, Evan. I noticed the elegant division of labor. He sat at the little cafe table beneath the window. I had found it at an estate sale and refinished the top in the alley behind my studio. There was still a dark ring near the edge because Evan had set a hot pan on it the first night we ate there. I should have told you before I published, he said. You should have asked. You would have said no. That's usually when asking matters. He rubbed both hands over his face. I am underwater, Claire. The admission changed the air. Evan hated talking about money unless it was attached to a plan. Numbers made him brisk and impressive. Fear made him vague. How far? I can manage it. How far? He stood again. This is exactly what I mean. You go into project manager mode and suddenly I'm submitting reports. We're supposed to get married in 7 weeks. And every time I try to talk about how that feels, you show me a spreadsheet. Because the spreadsheets keep changing. You see? No, I don't. You told me the loan payment increased. By how much? He walked to the sink and rinsed the cups, though they were mine and he had just evicted me. Between the adjustable rate and the insurance reassessment, it's about $1,200 more a month. I waited, and the roof draw ran short. The roof draw was $48,000. There was rot under the eastern pitch. I know, I approved the change order for $14,000. There were other costs. Which costs? He turned off the water too hard. I don't have the file in front of me. You never have the file in front of you when I ask a question. I'm trying to solve it. The suite could carry the difference if we price it correctly. The suite we were living in, temporarily. I looked at his suit in the closet. Where are you living? The main house. The upstairs shower isn't tiled. I can use the downstairs bathroom. Your mother won't stay here? His expression shifted half an inch, enough to answer me. When? I asked. It hasn't been decided. Is she moving into the main house? Her lease is up in August. Our wedding is in August. Yes, Claire, I know when our wedding is. Diane had spent 3 months complaining that her apartment's management company was raising the rent. She described the new amount as extortion, though it was still less than Evan's increased loan payment. I had offered to help her find another place. She rejected every listing I sent because one kitchen had black appliances, another faced west, and a third shared a wall with an elevator. You're turning the suite into a rental so your mother can move into the house. That's not the reason. It's one of them. She'd help with the guests. That's all we've discussed. You and she have discussed her housing, the rental, the eviction, and packing my suitcase. Stop calling it an eviction. You gave me a deadline to leave the place where I live. A short separation. With instant booking. The laptop chimed. A message had arrived from Martin. "Hi, Evan. Looking forward to our stay. My wife has a severe walnut allergy, so thank you for offering the custom breakfast basket. Please confirm the sunroom is available for our anniversary dinner Thursday." I rotated the screen. Evan read the message. "We can do that." "You don't know the breakfast vendor." "I can call them. They won't talk to you. My business has the account." "Then send me the number." "That's your solution?" "You want me to fail." The accusation landed so cleanly that I almost accepted it. "I wanted you to tell me the truth before your mother put my shoes in tissue paper." His eyes moved to the suitcase. "She didn't want your things damaged." That was the problem with Diane. Even her trespasses came neatly folded. I clicked the help icon and opened a support request. "What are you doing?" "Reporting that the listing was published without authorization under my business profile." "Claire, don't." "I'm removing my insurance and tax information." "You'll cancel the reservation. I'm not the one who accepted it." He reached toward the laptop. I shut it. "Think for 5 minutes," he said. "You're angry. Fine. You're entitled to be angry. But if you flag that account, they may freeze the payout. The payout going to your bank. That money pays for the house. Your property." His face hardened. "You're enjoying that phrase now." "I'm trying to learn it." He stood between me and the door for one ugly second. I watched him realize it and step aside. "I need to pack," I said. "You have until Tuesday." "I'm not sleeping here while you sell the bed by the night." I packed until midnight. Evan came and went twice, carrying empty boxes from the basement, but saying very little. He brought packing tape, then kept the dispenser beside him as if I might take that too. We divided objects without discussing what the division meant. My coffee grinder, his cast iron skillet, my duvet, his pillow, which I left bare on the mattress. When I lifted the framed photograph from the dresser, Evan and me laughing under an umbrella on the day we chose the wedding venue, he said, "Leave that." "Why?" "I like it." I put it face down in a box. At 12:15, Jenna arrived in plaid pajama pants and a raincoat over a t-shirt. She owned a wine bar 2 blocks from my studio and had the steady, unimpressed gaze of someone who had watched hundreds of bad first dates from behind polished wood. She took in the boxes, the stripped bed, and Evan standing beside the sink. "Do I hug somebody or carry a lamp?" she asked. "Lamp," I said. "Great, I'm better at lamps." Evan followed us to her car. "You don't have to make this public." Jenna opened the hatch. "I don't know what this is, so I'm currently an exceptionally discreet vehicle. It's between Claire and me. And your mother," I said. He shoved his hands into his pockets. "Call me tomorrow." The green glass key tag pressed into my palm. I had taken it from the hook without thinking. Evan noticed. "You need to leave the key." "I have until Tuesday." His expression told me the sentence sounded different when I used it. Jenna drove me to her apartment without asking questions. She made up the couch, placed a glass of water on the floor beside me, and said, "I open the bar at 3. We can perform the autopsy before lunch." I lay awake listening to her refrigerator cycle on and off. At 2 in the morning, the booking platform emailed to confirm that my complaint was under review. At 2:10, Evan texted, "Please don't make permanent decisions from a temporary emotion." At 2:23, Diane wrote, "You left the pie plate." I turned my phone face down. By 9 Monday morning, I was at my studio in yesterday's clothes. Bennett house styling occupied the ground floor of an old pharmacy, with tall front windows and more ambition than storage. Bolts of fabric leaned behind my desk. Lamps waited on metal shelves with tags tied to their cords. Half the furniture in the guest suite had come through that room. I pulled the suite invoices. The Walnut Cafe table belonged to the business inventory. So did the bed frame, both nightstands, the leather bench, the lamps, the rugs, the dishes, and the compact washer-dryer. The mattress had been purchased on my personal card. The refrigerator, plumbing fixtures, tile, cabinets, and shower glass had been billed as improvements to Evan's address. A yellow folder held the lender's gift letter. I set it aside unopened. First, I called our cleaning service and removed the guest suite from Wednesday's schedule. Then I called the farm shop that supplied welcome baskets for 2 rentals I managed. "Morning, Claire," said Renee. "Calling about the glass house order?" I gripped the phone. "What order?" 4 baskets Wednesday. Diane put in the request Friday and said to bill your account. Of course she had. "Cancel it, please." There was a short pause. "Everything okay?" "No, but my accounting is about to improve." Renee laughed, then realized I wasn't joking. "I'll cancel it." The platform suspended the listing at 10:30 pending proof of insurance and operator authorization. At 10:32, Evan called. I let it ring. At 10:33, he called again. At 10:34, Diane walked into my studio carrying the pie plate. She had covered it with aluminum foil, though only a smear of lemon filling remained. "You could have left that at the house," I said. "I thought we should talk without Evan." "You mean without the person I'm engaged to?" She placed the plate on my desk and looked around. Diane always grew quieter in the studio. She disliked clutter, and the room contained 6 kinds of clutter she couldn't identify. "Evan is ashamed," she said. "He has an unusual way of showing it. He's proud." "I know. No, you know he likes nice clothes and doesn't ask directions. That isn't the same thing." She ran a finger over the back of a fabric sample. "You walk into a room and see what's wrong with it. Then you know the person who can fix it, how much it should cost, and when it can be done. That is a gift. It can also make the people beside you feel decorative." "Did he tell you that?" "He didn't have to." "So this was your idea." The rental was Evan's idea. "The suitcase?" She looked at the foil-covered plate. I offered to help. "You opened my bathroom cabinet. You wouldn't have packed sensibly in that state. I wasn't in a state, I was basting chicken. You're making light of this because you don't want to hear me." I leaned back against the desk. "I am listening." Her mouth softened. For an instant, she looked tired. "The house is the one thing Evan has that is unquestionably his," she said. "He bought it before you. He survived years when every contract was late and every client wanted free revisions. Then you came in with your money and systems and started speaking as if marriage had already transferred authority. He asked me to. At first. And then? Then he didn't know how to ask you to stop. So he gave me 48 hours. He needed to do something you couldn't reorganize." That sentence sat between us. I thought of all the small concessions I had mistaken for partnership. Cream paint, Sunday dinners, moving the wedding date so Diane's favorite cousin could attend. Maybe Diane truly believed she was rescuing him from me. It did not make the rescue kinder. "The listing is suspended," she said. "I know." "Martin is expecting to arrive Wednesday. Then Evan should find him somewhere else. You could reinstate it for 1 week. No. After everything you put into those rooms, don't you want them to succeed? Not enough to ensure people who just removed me from them." Her eyes sharpened. "Punishing the house won't punish me." "I'm not punishing a house." "Evan says you're taking the furniture. The furniture belongs to my business. We chose that bed together. We chose it from my warehouse." She stood very still. I saw the moment she understood that the pretty, finished suite she planned to manage could come apart without anyone touching a wall. "I'll be there at noon with movers," I said. "I'd appreciate it if you told Evan not to interfere." "You're stripping it." "I'm collecting company inventory. Guests can't stay in empty rooms." "That sounds like an operations problem." She picked up the pie plate, remembered she had brought it for me, and set it down again. At 11:55, I arrived at the house with Jenna, 2 movers, and a printed inventory list. A locksmith's van was parked at the curb. The green-tagged key slid into the guest suite lock, but would not turn. Evan opened the door from inside. "I had to protect the property," he said. Behind him, every item I owned was still exactly where I had left it, for the moment. You changed the locks before my 48 hours were up. Evan stayed in the doorway. He had put on his work clothes, but his shirt was untucked and his hair was still damp. You filed a claim against the rental. I removed my company from it. You knew what that would do. Yes. Jenna stepped up beside me. I don't want to interrupt the property seminar, but these men charge by the hour. One mover studied the dogwood tree with professional neutrality. The other pretended to check something on his clipboard. Evan looked at my inventory list. You're not taking anything attached to the house. I'm not trying to. The washer-dryer stays. It's a freestanding unit owned by my company. It's connected to my plumbing. So is the coffee maker when it's full. Don't be ridiculous. Then move out of the doorway. He didn't. I could have called someone. I could have made the courtyard loud and official and impossible to take back. Instead, I held out my phone with the message he'd sent the night before. You gave me until Tuesday night. It's Monday. I didn't think you would try to dismantle the suite. I'm taking inventory. You can watch. It became part of the house. The bed? You know what I mean. Actually, that phrase has caused us quite a lot of trouble. Diane appeared at the far end of the breezeway. She had changed into beige pants and a navy cardigan, her crisis management clothes. She looked from the movers to Evan. Let her take the furnishings, she said. He turned. Mom, you said she bought them through the business. She bought them for this room. And now they'll become a legal argument while two strangers invoice you from the sidewalk. She nodded toward the movers. Let them work. He looked betrayed. Diane noticed and added, The appliances are different. They're not, I said. The washer is fitted under the counter. It slides out. Then perhaps it should slide out another day. It was the kind of compromise Diane loved, balanced in appearance, weighted in practice. I accepted anyway. Fine. The washer stays today. The rest goes. Evan moved aside. The suite came apart faster than it had come together. The movers lifted the mattress, revealing the cedar slats I had insisted on after Evan complained about the price. They wrapped the walnut table in quilted blankets and wheeled out the leather bench. Jenna packed dishes in paper while I checked serial numbers and tried not to watch my home become a loading list. Evan followed us from room to room. That lamp was a gift, he said. From me to the business after a client changed her mind. The rug was here before. The old rug was blue and smelled like wet pennies. He crouched to read the inventory tag tied beneath a nightstand. I had written it 18 months earlier, never imagining it would become evidence against the man helping me carry it upstairs. Diane stood in the kitchenette with both hands wrapped around an empty mug. The mug belonged to Evan, so Jenna had left it. You could leave the table, Diane said. Guests need somewhere to eat. There won't be guests until the listing is verified. It will be verified. Then Evan can buy a table. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen and walked into the courtyard. Through the open door, I heard, Martin, yes, I was about to call you. His voice changed when he talked to clients or strangers. It warmed. It acquired room for their inconvenience. No, the suite is fine. We're handling an administrative issue with the platform. A pause. I understand it's your anniversary. Diane set down the mug. Evan paced past the windows while the movers carried the bed frame behind him in pieces. We can still host you, he said. I may need to send a direct agreement. I stepped outside. Don't take him off the platform while the reservation is disputed. Evan covered the phone. Stay out of this. My insurance is still on the confirmation he received. I'm fixing your mess. Martin said something loud enough that I heard the rhythm but not the words. Evan's mouth tightened. I understand, of course. Let me call you back. He ended the call. They moved him to a hotel, he said. He wants me to cover the difference. The platform should cover part of it. They're charging the rest to the host. Which host? He stared at me. That was the first moment I saw the cost reach him as something more than an argument. It wasn't ruin. It was a hotel bill, a lost booking, and a room with no bed. small consequences, arriving on time. By 1:30, the suite held only what had been attached or disputed: cabinets, refrigerator, shower glass, the washer-dryer, Evan's pillow on the bare mattress foundation. The welcome home card remained on its hook because neither of us wanted to claim it. I removed my personal clothes and toiletries. In the bathroom cabinet, I found the empty sandwich bag box Diane had used while packing my suitcase. I left it. The green-tagged key no longer opened the door, but I placed it in my purse. Evan watched the moving truck pull away. "You made your point," he said. "I moved my things. You took away the income that was supposed to repay you. That was never the agreement. It could have been, if you'd asked." He laughed without humor. "There it is again. Permission. Everything has to pass through Claire. You didn't need my permission to rent your property. You needed it to use my company. Same difference to you." "No, it really isn't." At the studio, we stacked the furniture so tightly that the cafe table blocked one aisle, and the mattress stood in front of the cabinet where I kept tax files. Jenna ordered sandwiches, then left for the bar after making me promise not to sleep on the mattress standing up. I finally opened the yellow folder. The gift letter was a single page. It stated that the funds I contributed toward improvements at Evan's address were given freely, with no expectation of repayment or ownership interest. My signature sat at the bottom in blue ink. I remembered signing it at the cafe table. Evan had been making pasta. He slid the page between a paint estimate and the revised loan schedule and said the bank needed clean language before releasing the next construction draw. When I hesitated at the word gift, he kissed the top of my head and said, "The bank can call it whatever it wants. We know what it is." I called Leah Morgan, an attorney who had helped me negotiate the studio lease. She fit me in late that afternoon. Her office was over a dentist's practice and smelled faintly of cinnamon disinfectant. Leah read the gift letter twice. Then she went through my invoices, text messages, and the email in which Evan had written, "Once we refinance after the wedding, we'll put your share into the house officially." "This email helps," she said. "Enough?" "Enough to have an argument." "That isn't what I asked." "No." She removed her glasses. "The fixtures and structural improvements are the difficult part. He owns the property. You signed a document saying the money was a gift. We can claim there was a different agreement between you, but litigation would be expensive, and he'll say the email describes a future intention rather than a debt." "How expensive?" She gave me a range. The low end was more than I had left in my operating account. I stared at a ceramic tooth on the bookshelf behind her. It had little wire braces and a smiling face. "He planned this," I said. "Possibly." He had me sign away the money, then waited until the work was done. "Possibly," she said again, "but don't build your decisions around proving what was in his head. Build them around what you can document and what outcome you can live with. What if the outcome is that I paid to increase the value of his house and he gets to keep it? Then we decide whether pursuing the difference is worth the cost." I hated her for saying it gently. When I left, Evan was waiting beside my car. He held a white bakery box. "Peace offering." "What is it?" "Pie. Your mother sent you." I came on my own. He handed me the box. Inside was half a lemon pie, this one properly set. "I spoke to the platform," he said. "They'll transfer the listing to a new operator if I provide separate insurance. I've already applied." "Good." He seemed disappointed by the answer. "I can have furniture delivered by Thursday." "Then you're all set." "No, Claire, I'm not all set." A delivery van honked from the alley. I moved closer to my car. He said, "Come home." My body responded before my mind did. My chest loosened. For one humiliating second, I pictured the suite before the movers. Lamplight, clean sheets, his shoes under the bench. Then he added, "We can suspend bookings until after the wedding." "Your mother is moving in, though." "She might, temporarily." Where would we live? In the suite, the rental suite. We'd adjust. And the money I spent? "We can discuss a repayment schedule after the house stabilizes." "Put that in writing." His face changed. "We're getting married." That's what you said when I signed the gift letter. He looked toward Leah's building. You went to a lawyer? I went to someone who reads documents before believing what you say they mean. That's unfair. I closed the pie box. Did you intend to add me to the house? Yes. When? When it made sense. Before Sunday? You're twisting this. Did you fill out any paperwork? Call the lender? Ask Leah or anyone else what it required? He didn't answer. You liked the promise, I said. It made me act like an owner while keeping me from becoming one. He shoved his hands into his pockets. Mom was right. You reduce everything to transactions. Your mother billed breakfast baskets to my business after packing me out. That was a mistake. She knew the account number. I gave it to her. I looked at him. He blinked, realizing what he'd admitted. For operating expenses. How long has she had it? She wasn't accessing your bank. It was a vendor account. How long? 2 weeks? The photographer had come 6 days ago. The listing had been planned before that. Somewhere between buttercream tastings and invitation wording, Evan had been teaching his mother how to run my systems. He took a step closer. I felt erased in my own house. So you erased me first. I'm standing here asking you to come back. With what conditions? He looked genuinely confused. Why does there have to be a trap in everything I say? Because there was one in, we know what it is. I put the pie on the roof of his car and drove away. The next morning, Luis arrived at my studio with a rolled set of plans under one arm. He had worked on the house from the first demolished wall and communicated mainly through size, photographs and invoices so detailed they included individual boxes of screws. Evan says you stopped authorizing draws, he said. I'm no longer paying for work at the house. He says the sunroom has to be finished by August. Then he has to pay you. Luis looked past me at the guest suite furniture filling the studio. Ah, that's the technical term. He owes my crew for last week. I paid everything you billed me. I know. He shifted the plans. He asked me to continue and said rental money was coming. It isn't coming through me. Luis nodded slowly. Then I stop. He didn't declare allegiance or offer comfort. He simply took out his phone, called his foreman, and moved the crew to another job. On Friday, the platform approved Evan's separate insurance. The listing returned with hurried photographs of a metal bed, 2 flat-packed nightstands, and a glass table Diane had decorated with the same bowl of lemons. Breakfast was no longer included. The sunroom disappeared from the amenities. By Saturday, 3 weekends were booked. I stared at the calendar until the little blue squares blurred. He could do it without me. More cheaply and less beautifully, but he could do it. My complaint had protected my business, not transformed his life. The house remained his. The bookings would help him keep it. My furniture crowded my studio, my wedding deposits were becoming non-refundable, and the yellow folder sat on my desk like a verdict. Then a support message appeared in the closed dispute thread. The platform had completed its audit of activity under my company profile. Attached was a record of reservations and pre-approved inquiries created before the transfer. One inquiry covered 28 nights beginning the week after our wedding. Evan had offered a large discount and promised uninterrupted access to the sunroom. His note to the guest read, "The suite will be fully managed by my wife by then." I was still reading it when Diane called. "Claire," she said with none of her usual ceremony, "how much did Evan tell you he borrowed?" "I don't know," I said. "He said the loan payment went up $1,200 a month and the roof draw ran short." Diane was silent. "How much did he borrow?" I asked. I found a statement. His statement? It was on the dining table. I nearly pointed out that reading documents left in other people's rooms had never troubled her before. She said, "The construction balance is $93,000. I sat down at my desk. The cafe table was still wedged sideways across the aisle, its legs wrapped in moving blankets. "How much did he tell you?" 40. "Did he say where the rest went?" "He said costs accumulated. That isn't an answer." "I am aware of that, Claire." Her voice had an edge I hadn't heard directed away from me. He told me the rental would cover the loan increase, she continued. He also said there would be enough left to help with my rent if I chose not to move. Help how much? He wasn't specific. Evan's favorite unit of measurement. Please don't be clever. It's holding me together. She breathed into the phone. Were there really 3 weekends booked? Yes. Then perhaps his estimates aren't unreasonable. He pre-approved a 28-night stay beginning after the wedding. He promised I would manage it. Another silence. Did you agree to that? She asked. I found out 3 minutes ago. The refrigerator in the back room clicked off. Through the front window, I watched a delivery driver balance a tower of flower boxes against his chin. Diane said, "He told me you wanted to run it once you were in the main house. He told me short-term rentals might be useful someday. We never agreed that someday started with you packing my suitcase." I see. I didn't think she did. Diane used I see when she had located a fact she could not yet rearrange. Are you moving into the house? I asked. I gave notice at my apartment. Before Sunday? Friday. The photographer had come Tuesday. Diane had given notice Friday. By Sunday, my suitcase was at the door. Did Evan tell you to? He said I would have options. What options? The main house or assistance with another apartment. From rental income, he didn't have. He believed the bookings would come, because he believed I'd keep working. This time, she had nothing to say. The 28-night guest accepted Evan's pre-approval that afternoon. The platform immediately froze the reservation because it had originated under my company profile before the listing transfer. The guest had paid a deposit of nearly $6,000. Evan could not collect it, cancel it without penalties, or transfer it to his new listing unless I confirmed that Bennett House Styling had authorized the original offer. He called me 6 times. His 7th call came from a different number. "Please don't hang up," he said. "I'm with a client." You knew that reservation would freeze. I learned the inquiry existed this morning. I need you to authorize the transfer. I didn't authorize the offer. The guest doesn't care whose account it started under. He wants the suite. Then send him the link to your new listing. The monthly rate is different now. Because you offered him a discount? Because the taxes and insurance are recalculating. And the sunroom? A pause. I can have Luis finish it. Luis stopped work because you haven't paid his crew. He told you that? He came to collect the next draw. Stay out of my contractors. I almost admired the sentence. Good luck with your reservation. Claire, this could fix things. For whom? For the house. For us. There is no us in the host photograph. That picture was my mother's idea. I don't care whose idea it was. You care about everything being assigned correctly. Every fault needs a name. Your name is on the listing, Evan. He lowered his voice. Tell me what you want. It was the first useful question he had asked. I want the boxes you locked in the main house. I want the washer-dryer. I want a written acknowledgement that using my company account was unauthorized. I want a repayment agreement for the renovation money. You signed a gift letter. I know. You can't agree to one thing when the bank needs it and rewrite history when you're angry. We can let attorneys decide which history has better documents. I thought Leah only handled leases. The fact that he knew which attorney I had seen made the back of my neck tighten. Did you follow me? You put a lawyer's pie on my car. For a second, neither of us spoke. It was your pie, I said. I'm coming to the studio. I have a client. Tonight. Bring your mother. Why? Because you made her part of this. They arrived after closing. Diane wore the same navy cardigan, though one cuff was darkened where she had washed something by hand. Evan carried a plain silver key and a folder. I set the green-tagged key on my desk. It looked cloudy under the task lamp, a useless key to a replaced lock. Evan placed the new key beside it. This opens the suite. I didn't ask to move back. You asked for access. I asked for my property. You can have the washer and the boxes. I'm offering more than that. He opened the folder and slid a document toward me. It gave me the right to occupy the guest suite through the wedding and for 90 days afterward. In return, I would acknowledge that my prior payments were gifts, waive any claim against the house, and manage existing bookings for a monthly fee that was less than I charged clients for staging one room. I read it twice. Diane watched my face. He had someone draft that today. I can tell. It protects everyone, Evan said. From what? Future confusion. The word had survived. I tapped the paragraph about management services. You gave me 48 hours to vacate, then sold a month of my labor to a stranger. I assumed we would work it out by then. Work what out? This. He waved between us as though our relationship were smoke over a pan. Diane said, "Tell her what you told me. Mom, tell her why Sunday had to happen that way." Evan looked at her with open disbelief. "You agreed with me." I agreed that Claire had taken too much authority in the house. I did not know the numbers you gave me were imaginary. They were projections. You offered to pay part of my rent with projections. He stood. I'm not being cross-examined by both of you. I stayed seated. Why did it have to happen that way? His face reddened. Because every conversation ended with you taking over. If I had asked for space, you would have scheduled counseling, made a budget, called 3 rental managers, and presented me with options. So you planned to scare me. I planned to reset the balance. The phrase sounded rehearsed because it was. Something he had said to himself in the car, something that made cruelty feel architectural. How? I asked. He spread his hands. By making it clear whose house it was before we got married. Diane closed her eyes. And after 48 hours? I asked. You would calm down. We'd talk. You'd come home. To manage the rental. To be my wife. Under your roof, on your terms. It's legally my roof, Claire. That is a fact. I looked at the old key beside the new one. He had believed the threat of losing access would make me grateful for any door he reopened. I slid his document back. I'm not coming home. His shoulders dropped, but only slightly. Then why am I here? To hear that from me. I removed my engagement ring. The skin beneath it was pale and indented. I placed it on top of the unsigned agreement. Diane whispered my name. Evan stared at the ring. You're ending our engagement over a guest suite. No, I'm ending it because you needed me homeless for 2 nights to feel married correctly. That isn't what I said. It's what you did. He picked up the folder, leaving the ring on the desk. What about the reservation? He asked. I had expected anger. The practical question was worse. I won't authorize it. You're walking away from almost $6,000. It isn't my money. It could repay part of what I owe you. You haven't agreed that you owe me. His jaw worked. Keep the ring. No, sell it. Add it to your accounting. He walked out. Diane stayed. She touched the edge of the document, then looked at the green glass. I thought you were making him feel small, she said. I probably did sometimes. The admission surprised both of us. He never tells people when he's frightened, she said. He waits until he can call it a decision. That doesn't make the decision mine to fix. No. She lifted the silver key and put it in her purse. She left the green one where it was. Leah sent Evan a settlement proposal the next morning. We asked for my remaining belongings, the washer-dryer, written confirmation that my business had not authorized the listing, and repayment of $58,000, far less than I had spent, but enough to keep Bennett House styling alive. Evan could pay in installments, secured by a voluntary lien against the house. In exchange, I would release my renovation claim and any claim arising from his use of my company information. His attorney answered with $12,000 and an accusation that I had caused lost rental income by removing furniture dedicated to the premises. Leah responded with inventory records, purchase receipts, the platform audit, and Evan's message promising that my share would be placed into the house after refinancing. For 3 weeks, the offers moved back and forth. The wedding venue kept 12% of the deposit. The florist returned half. I sold the hotel room block to another event and spent an afternoon telling vendors the wedding was canceled, in the same voice I used to discuss delivery windows. The invitation proofs remained in their box until Jenna carried them to the recycling bin. Evan tried to operate the rental with Diane. Their first guests complained that the metal bed squealed and the kitchenette had no bottle opener. Diane drove over at 11 at night with her own opener and discovered that hospitality felt different when strangers raided it. The next guests expected the sunroom because an old photograph still appeared in a cached confirmation. Luis would not return without payment. The month-long reservation was canceled. The platform refunded the guest and charged Evan the applicable host penalties. He blamed me in mediation. "You could have clicked one button," he said. Leah answered before I could. The button certified authorization her client never gave. Diane attended the second mediation session. When Evan claimed he had expected 90% occupancy, she opened her notebook and said, "You told me 70. He looked at her as if she had changed locks on him. We settled that day at $49,000. 10 was due immediately from the remaining construction draw. The balance would be paid monthly and secured against the house." Evan signed an acknowledgement that Bennett House Styling had not authorized the original listing. I signed away any further claim to the improvements. The number hurt, so did the relief. Diane returned my boxes herself. She had labeled them kitchen, office, bath, and Claire, personal in her square handwriting. The washer arrived with Luis, who disconnected it properly and charged Evan for the visit. At the bottom of the last box lay the Welcome Home card. I threw it away. Evan made 4 monthly payments. Then the rental calendar thinned, the adjustable loan changed again, and the unfinished main house consumed money whether anyone loved it or not. Diane moved into the upstairs bedroom when her lease ended, but she lasted 6 weeks among tools, guest complaints, and arguments about utility bills. Evan listed the house in November. At closing, Leah called to say the remaining balance had been paid from the sale proceeds. I thanked her, hung up, and sat quietly at the cafe table, now centered beneath the front window of my studio. By then I had rented the small apartment upstairs. It had crooked floors, loud pipes, and sunlight across the kitchen every morning. The studio furniture was working again instead of storing the remains of my engagement. My phone chimed. The booking app had one final update. The Glass House guest suite was no longer available. I deleted the alert. Then I took the green glass tag from my desk, removed the key that opened nothing, and threaded it onto the key to the apartment upstairs.